Anyway, that's why in Germany there was these families, and I was like, and I put out the call basically, or put out word that that I wanted families to show up inside of this auditorium. I had built this auditorium or theater, and I was like, and I want these families to show up and tell them what we will do for them, that we will build a factory, and or yeah, I don't know if I told them that. I might have just said, because I didn't want people that were trying to come up on money. I was like, but I was like, I want them to show up, and then what I was offering was basically that I'd pay for the factory, I'd pay for their house, I'd pay for a place for them to live, and they could pursue something like boat building or some sort of business in the world, because I was like, most people can't afford to build a factory, and I had built quite a few factories myself. So I had decided, let's go ahead and I'll give grants to these people. So people from Germany, normal workers, were they all lined up, and I was like, and I want the married people on one side and the unmarried people that might or may not have a girlfriend, because like, once I start building them a factory and everything else, and I was like, and tell them, that they'll have to be trained, yeah, it has to. And so I forget how it worked, but it was like we chose people that had education, or that that could do this or had experience. So, and then I started handing out grants. I forget how much it was, like $100 or $1,000 or something like that. Enough to build a factory though, and a house. And I was like, okay, so we worked it all out, and then the aircraft took to the skies, and they found places for them to build these places, these factories or these workshops. And then we're like, okay, and we're probably gonna want to keep them kind of together. So I was like, okay, so pick a couple sites. So they picked a couple sites, and I was like, okay, so I paid for the building of these factories. It's like here and here and here and here. So there was like, I think like a chair building thing and some other stuff and a whole bunch of little stuff. So I think I think it was like 1,000 people or 30,000 people, and or something like that. And they showed up in the auditorium in Germany, in this auditorium that I had built. And they actually drove like all day, all night, and stuff like that, or took buses or walked, to be there that day. Some of them had started out a year beforehand, and we're just like hanging around for that one day. And then they all lined up, and then the person, they handed out the things, and they're like, okay, and took all the names, and then we picked, and then we did those, and there's a whole bunch of little shops and stuff like that. And then we, again, I waited a little while, and then we picked it. I think we did it like three times. Like the first group was like 1,200 people, or 600 people, and then the next group, and then there was another group. You know, where we built a shop, we built a factory, we built a store for them. And at first it was, and then later on it became like we were building a factory for them. I think the first thing was like a shop and like a workshop and a store or something like that, where we did workshops and stores and a house or something like that. And then later on, I think we did something a little bit larger scale, where it was like a house and a factory and a staff or something like that. So I did it in two different stages. Anyway, so then, and that was in Germany. So because I had a lot of money. I had a lot of money, and I mean, it was, and I had that moment where it was like, most people can't do this kind of stuff. Most people would spend their whole life and not ever be given a real chance at making a difference, or stuff like that. So I was like, I think I'm gonna do this. So then I did it, and then later on there was more stuff, and I was like, let's do that again. That worked out pretty good last time. There was it was a build up, because at first I was just a miner with a few battleships, and then I became like, there's more and more and more, and then you know, and then I start actually doing like where there's organizations that help people that want to start doing businesses. Germany had all this stuff over there in Europe, where it was like, where we're even I think there's even one time where we drilled a well and got someone started in the oil business or something like that. And then, you know, it's kind of like how it began. It began with Germany and a couple of really bad people that were in the drug business. And then trying to, because I thought about it, I was like, but I mean, drugs are the only way to really get ahead. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And I was like, I could make it so we could pursue businesses and, I mean, get business going. I mean, just because drugs are the easiest way doesn't mean that you can't make more money in the factory thing. But then I thought, well, but who can afford a big factory? No one. I can, yes, but normal people can't. So I was like, I'm going to change that. So, like I said, there are steps to becoming epic, and those were the steps that I took, and that's where like my personal changes were changing people's lives. And that's another, I didn't even think about it at first. I was just trying to like, and then, I mean, it was weird because I was back in time with them. I mean, and that was state of the art. I mean, I was back then, not now. And then I do this and I do that. And they're just little shops at first. Like a little store and like a workshop. And I'm supplying the tools, like it's just a small little town. It was like there's like this road and it goes over, because after we killed the guy and we got rid of all his guys, and we changed the drug thing around, and we also created more farming up there or something like that. We had to take him out and kill him, and there was a big long fight. And some of his guys scattered, but we got most of them. So anyway, so it's just this little road, and there's these little shops, and I think they actually left the shops there because it was stimulus money that actually built those little shops. It was a workshop and a little store, and there was like a line of them, and they went for like a mile or two. And it was somewhere in Germany or somewhere like that. And then, and I think it's still there. I think they left it there because of what I did. And then after that, like I say, it just became bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it's like, and then later on, it's like, where I'm like building a whole town. And like I have thousands of people, millions even. Before I had thousands or hundreds of thousands, and then after that I had millions, because like I mean, most it's like you see an ad in the paper and it says show up 2:00 tomorrow, blah blah blah, or a month. I was like, we better give people some time on this one, so let's go ahead and give them 6 months. So I was like, show up in 6 months, and on that day. It was an auditorium in Germany. On that day, I will be handing out grant money, and for businesses, legitimate businesses. So because I knew that people might just sell the shops, sell the tools, and then be like, bye, I have the money, see you later. So I wanted serious people that actually wanted to do a craft, like build chairs, not just sell the store, sell the tools, and hit the road. Anyway, so because I was going to be spending a lot of money, I was going to be supplying tools, I was going to be supplying the store, supplying the glass for the windows on the stores, and building them a place to live. So anyway, so it was a big deal, and anyway, that's where it kind of started, and then from there, it became where I'm like building whole blocks and basically these big stores and these big factories, and even a foundry for a couple of people. I think I might have built a few foundries. And then these people just showed up, and then they got this thing, and it's like show up at this address in so many days or whatever, or show up there, and they would show up and they would tell people what they wanted, and and it was almost, by the time it was over, it was like, oh, that was too easy, because I looked at how much it costs, and I was like, that really didn't cost that much. Let's go ahead and build some more, and then, and that's how I another reason why they ended up paying me taxes and stuff, because I was like, well, yeah, I was like, pay me if you can, when you can, whatever. And some of them actually gave their houses to me, basically.